So the question was raised how well this gear, spindle gear, is lining up with the reverse gears, because of all the trouble I had getting this part in with the woodruff key, with it not revealing, not going in far enough to leave me with full access to the woodruff key slot. The guy, he goes by IL Gopher, was saying, hey, maybe you could face this guy off, pull that in. There's plenty of room to do that, as you can see. Kind of like the way the things are now, because of that spindle gear being so boogered up. It's actually riding on the good part now. So I won't be doing that anytime soon. Whenever I rebuild this gear or replace it, then I'll be more inclined to consider that option. So I just want to show this. I thought it was a real good question. The fact that it's not lining up doesn't necessarily mean to me that it's supposed to be in, because a lot of the my 10-inch, this gear doesn't line up perfectly. It's fully engaging this guy, so this could be the design, just as it sits. Let's see I'll try to wiggle the reverse gear because it does have some slop to it. Let's see what happens. Not really moving. I don't really see it back at that level because that's where the actual pivot pin is back there. Oh, wait a second. Now there you go. You saw some slop. Yeah. So that's where it is. So progress has really come to a stop as I've tried to figure out how to get this off of here. I've been playing around with it for a while now. I've gone and slept on it. I've cleaned the shop up. I've done everything I know how to do to, try to entice an epiphany, and I have not had one. So, what I should have done before I've already done some damage messing around here. What had happened, this is now boogered up inside here, because what I had done was I tried, let's see, what was the thought process on that one? Oh, I was thinking I could drive this down and off of here. If it won't come this way, maybe it'll go that way. So I loosened this. I had pulled this guy back. I tightened the set screw. I put this whole thing in the press of doom. Press of doom. And yeah, so this thing just slid, and in the process, it's all messed up in there, and man, now I'm really like, yeah. You can see down inside here. I wonder if this will work. You see that? Maybe. I don't know. Anyway, there is, trust me, there's some chowder in there that needs to be cleaned out, because now when you try to get this off, it's hanging on that. I've actually thought of setting this up in the mill. I don't have a really close fit in here. I have some real small ones that I would have to kind of like move around to try to nip that out of there. It would be nice if I had just a nice, one that really fit this size, without damaging the threads, of course, that I could just go in there and go and then this thing would probably slide off, because I really would like to be able to slide this back now, just to get in there and just I'd like to get it significantly far back so that I can really see what's up under there, and hit it with some PV blaster or whatever, start working on it. But oh well, I'm stuck. Oh, and a couple of quick details on this thing. I don't know whether I zoomed in close enough to show this earlier. Yes, there's another woodruff key here. Gotta love those. But there is a slot in this collar, so that should not theoretically interfere with it. It should be able to slide out over top of it. Also, just in case you think I didn't know, yes, there's the drift pin. I've knocked that out, so that's not the problem. Just wanted to clarify in case somebody, thinks I might have missed those items. Alright, so I think I'm in the home stretch. Famous last words. But what I did was I cleaned off I actually did use an end mill to go in to where I had screwed things up in here, and I just put a flat where there was shaving, I don't know what you want to call it when you have jagged edges that you've created from being an idiot. But was able to slide this collar back, then the bearing that the actual shaft is supposed to ride on, then this banjo, then this stop collar here, which turns out to be separate from this one. I kind of suspected it was. So that I was able to drive that down. That was with some pretty heavy persuasion, but it did finally come down. And then once that was down, this pretty easily tapped down. So I'm just going to knock this woodruff key out, take it over to the the wire wheel, clean all this crud out here that was preventing this piece from coming off to begin with. And I have high hopes that this 1, 2, 3, 4 is all going to come off. Alright, this might be of interest to some of you. Got everything off, obviously. Very happy. That larger stop collar was fitted to this knurled region right here. And of course it also had the drift pin through it. I'm thinking that was really never meant to go anywhere. Probably not to come off in any sort of a servicing scenario. So the knurling makes this 2/1000ths over. This shaft is dead nuts 500,000ths. This is 502. So your bearing does not want to go that way. I'm not going to force it for sure. So that means I'm going to have to just go ahead and clean this shaft so that I can... Wow, wait a second. This feels... Man, I hope this works. Anyway, so, I wanted to get everything apart before I put this into any sort of electrolysis or, evaporust or anything like that. But in order to slide this back this way, I need to clean this shaft. So looks like I'm going to be going ahead and doing it before removing these pieces. So I had to change my order of operations just a little bit. Alright, so see what you think of this idea. I'm going to use the evaporust. And so what I'm going to do, I'm going to go ahead and cut this piece of PVC. I put a cap on the end. And I'm going to cut it basically somewhere about right here. So I should be able to put this in here and fill it with evaporust. I shouldn't have to use all that much of it. Wish me luck. Let's see how that works. Then it won't... Well, the reason I'm going to this trouble rather than just putting this in some tray or something, because I do actually have a tray long enough that I made when I did the bed. The reason I'm worried about that, I just don't want this material here in the evaporust. It might not hurt it, but I don't want to take the chance. So I want to keep what belongs in there, and what doesn't belong in there, out of there. Alright, so my PVC evaporust treatment worked pretty well. It's not perfect. I mean, It's not no fault of the evaporust. It's just this here. Let's see how well that'll focus. You know, this threaded rod sat out in the weather enough to get pitted, so you know, it is what it is. But that evaporust does a very good job of cleaning it off with, I think, the minimal amount of damage to the good metal that you can achieve. This up here, because the evaporust stopped about here, so this up here is just regular wire wheel cleaning. Alright, so this is coming off pretty much no problem. Looks like I might have a rough spot right here. Now the bearing. You know, I don't think this is a rough spot. I think what's happening right here is this is basically virgin metal here, whereas this has been worn down a bit because you know you do all your work close, the majority of work close to the headstock. So I think you've lost some diameter here, but not here. So I don't think we're running into roughness here. We're just running into, you know, metal that's basically the way it's supposed to be. Oops. Oh. There we go. Alright, it's apart. So in retrospect, if you're doing one of these, I would probably leave that larger collar with the drift pin through it in here, unless you run, you know, remember mine came from a scrapyard. It was rusted to pieces. It was not your average restoration job, I don't think. I could not get that smaller collar off here. I mean, I think I probably had to do it the way I did it. But anyway, I think for your standard type of restoration job, what you would do is want to just leave that one on here. Pop, you know, your gear and your collar off over here. Leave the big one, and your bearing and your other small collar are meant to come down this way. And I think you will you'll achieve a pretty good, you know, cleaning and restoration of your part. I want to show something it's kind of a little bit disappointing to me about you know, just the fit and finish of this Craftsman lathe. You can see this collar that goes on here, those key slots, those are 180 degrees out, right? Well, notice I only had one of them in here when I took this apart. There's a pretty good reason for that, and that is the slots in the shaft are not 180 degrees out. They are significantly off. So there's the slot lined up. Switch it around. Can you see that? Let's get the light down there. How well can you see the focus? Can you see how far off that is? That's terrible. So that's why there's only one key in here. You know, just kind of piss poor from the original construction. unless somebody convinced me there's a someone convinced me that there is a reason to do that. Yeah, it just looks sloppy to me. Something probably, basically this part is defective, never should have left the factory is what I'm saying. Alright guys, I think I got lucky getting this back together. There wasn't too much struggle. It seemed to me, as I tried to put it on different ways, that there was a a slight taper. That it wanted to slide one way better than it wanted to slide the other. But if I tried to slide it the easy way, then I ended up with the wrong face over here. So that made me go ahead and run it all the way down to the end, flip it over, and run it up this way. Then came the question of, alright, there's a taper there, which one of these goes where? Honestly, I think I probably just got lucky on that. I did deduce because there's this little peen hole right here, or peen, what do you want to call that, divot? That, the thicker end of the tapered pin would be out here. So like when this was done at the factory, it was driven in and peened right there, and that held it. And to kind of repeat what I think I said earlier, but just in case, if you're redoing one of these guys, I probably would not remove this. I think I got lucky getting it back together the right way, because those knurls have to line up, and then it's a pretty precision fit between the holes that are in this collar and the hole that's in the shaft. I believe it was installed, drilled, pinned, and peened, and never really meant to be taken apart again. So I wound up taking it apart just because I had so much trouble getting that one collar off of here. But yeah, I wouldn't recommend it. If you can get away with just leaving that on, leave it on. So I'm counting myself lucky to have it back together. Everything's been evaporusted. Only one spot. Let's see if you can see how close I can get this in here. One spot on the threads. Does it actually look like it took some kind of a hit and the thread actually needs cleaning? Like I wouldn't want to run the what do you call that clamp nut? You know what I'm talking about. The thing in the apron that split nut. I wouldn't want to run it all the way down here without cleaning these guys up. There's a particular spot, I don't know if you can see it here, where the thread is obviously, like it would interfere with a proper nut. I think that's it right there. So I'd like to clean it up. I don't have anything, with this kind of Acme thread in the way of a die or a thread file or anything. So I'm just going to leave it for right now and figure out something later. I don't even think any of my Swiss files are that thin to get down in there. That's pretty teeny. So yeah, it's probably going to go back on like this for now. And I'll check it to see if in any kind of normal operation that split nut would even make it down this far. It might not, but we'll see. So if you ever wondered what a lantern battery looks like on the inside, it's got 4 of these guys. Two of them oriented positive that way, 2 of them oriented positive that way. Little connectors at the bottom, connectors at the top, 1.5 volts each. They all wind up in series after you do the little connect them bobbers, and you get 6 volts. Why did I take that apart? Good question. Well, this came out of this guy, which is, I don't know if you call it an antique, but it's a fairly old railroad lantern. And I'd like to use it, but I don't like these lantern batteries. They seem to go bad pretty quickly, and I don't want it leaking all over and ruining one. I have 3 of these. 2 of them are in decent shape, and one of them's pretty rusty from having been having the battery leak inside of it. So what I was trying to figure out how to do is how to put something in the battery, put an alternate type of batteries, a rechargeable battery, something else, in the same cavity held by this thing. So I knew there was something like this in here. I thought I might be able to get this apart neatly. No. The idea being that then maybe I could use this to build my alternate battery contraption that would then go in here, and then I could recharge whenever I needed. And meantime, I'd have a cool old railroad lantern battery, or railroad lantern torch, whatever you want to call it. That it's just cool. But yeah, that's not going to happen in at least out of that case. But I can at least satisfy some people's curiosity as to what's inside of a lantern battery. You're welcome. So the Arbor Press of Doom has found a new home. Yeah, I broke down and bought the Harbor Freight 20-ton, and you'll notice that they thoughtfully provided me with a color-coordinated set here. I've got the exclusive gray and orange combination. If you don't have one of these, they come in like 3 separate boxes, and I got a little mix match, and I decided I'm going to run with it because I don't know, works for me. This is one of those things that I thought, I'd always buy at some point, and I just decided, it's time. They had it on their, sale price of $200, which it seems like 75% of the time it's on that sale. And then you have the 20% discount, so it's a $160 unit. And, I recently acquired a nice little set of brooches off of Fleabay, and the little Arbor Press of Doom just isn't going to work with those. I want to make some gears, so I'm going to need to be doing some broaching. And then the most recent project that came up that put me in mind of this, see that guy right there? That is a support strut. It supports a propeller shaft on a sailboat, on my sailboat, and it's bent 20 ways from Sunday. So, I started thinking all Keith Fenner. If you see, he does a lot of marine work, and if there's one episode in particular where, he uses his much superior hydraulic press to straighten one of these bad boys out. Now, this is just going to be a learning exercise. That thing has stress cracks in it. Doubt I will ever trust it. And I'm actually in mind right now of just going with an outboard on my sailboat, because it has a 45-year-old Atomic 4 in it. Some of you know what that means. It's a 4-cylinder flathead. It's had seawater running through it for its entire life, and I just don't trust it. And I'm tired of spending all my time that I want to be sailing, being a marine mechanic instead. So yeah, I'm probably just going to go with an outboard. But anyway, meantime, I have this little project to do. I also plan to do broaching, so I figured it was time to pull the trigger on this purchase. Now, of course, the little arbor press won't be able to live there if I'm actually using the hydraulic press, but it's only clamped in place. So I figure if I've just got a little job, I come over there, use the arbor press, and if I got the job that I need the hydraulic press for, easy peasy to unclamp the arbor press, and then I can go on and do some more heavy duty stuff. Cool.